our next speakers are Linas, Didvalis, and Zikas, Aurelius, and Arvydas Kumpis from Vytautas Magnus University, Lithuania. The title of the presentation is RITOJA.LT, a website dedicated to the history of Japan-Lithuania relations. The floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much for your kind introduction. We are very happy to be here and to listen to your presentations. And it was mentioned that should be 3 of us in front of you. And actually, but if you look at the booklet, it's was updated a little bit, and there are only 2 names mentioned next to this presentation. And we applied to this conference already some months ago. And at that time, we wanted to be more of us in the team. And one of the members is Aurelius Zikas. But a kind of thing happens. Actually, that you could see on the screen. Aurelius is now in Japan and acting and serving as ambassador of Lithuania to Japan. So this, of course, position is a very busy one and very complicated. And there's time difference and so on. So unfortunately, Aurelius said, sorry, send my greetings to everyone, but I will not be joining even online. So apologies from him, but also greetings, friendly greetings to everyone. I think you met Aurelius at some other occasions in the past. Okay, so there will be 2 of us, me, Linas Didvalis, and Arvydas Kumpis, and I will give the floor for Arvydas because he will be the main speaker for this presentation.
Okay. Actually, it's my honor and a huge pleasure to present for the 3rd time in EAJRS, and since well, was it 2017 for the first time in, or 2016 in Bucharest. Later, I had the pleasure to meet you, majority of you, in Kaunas, and now meeting once again live here in beautiful city in Lisbon. So that's the short sharing of memories. And let's go to the main topic of our talk, and that is RITOJA.LT, a website dedicated to the history of Japan-Lithuania relations, which is once again a bit different story from what we are hearing here in the presentations. We will be talking about how we are making the resources accessible to the public, not old, ancient, extremely valuable, but nonetheless very important, very interesting, and of course related to the modern history, not Edo period, although we could find something in archives, and I think it would be really interesting to add those things to our website. But the most important thing is this 100 years of lifespan since the official recognition of Lithuania by Japan, the initiation of diplomatic relations until now, because last year and this year we are celebrating various anniversaries. First of all, the okay, I can actually go to the website to this slide. It will be much better. So our presentation, first of all, will be divided in those 4 parts. It's the idea of this website, the process of its creating, result, what we are having now, and dissemination, plus what's next. And you can see already a poster with the face of Chiune Sugihara. It also gives you kind of this notion what we are targeting. This is the spread, first of all, of cultural relations and the history of cultural relations between the 2 countries, between the 2 nations. And the whole website is very much based on the visual representations, on visual pictorial information. We will talk about it a bit later. So idea, and I think the most important thing here is the logo of this project. It has well, several layers of idea. So first of all, you can see RI, like Lituania, and the I letter is the tricolor of Lithuanian flag: yellow, green, and red. So then there is to, so RI, to, ya. So Lituania to Japonia, so to say, or Lituania to Japan, if you want. And of course, O letter denotes the Hinomaru, the rising sun, without, of course, the rays. It's very sensitive, as we know it. But the main problem before creating the website was that there is no easy to access resource for the public where Lithuania and Japan relations are reflected. I mean, if you want to access that information, you got to go to different institutions, to different textbooks, to different monographs. And that is not a easy thing for the general public. That's why we were thinking about how to make it easy for everyone. And of course, we had this kind of mounting pressure in a, we can say directly or indirectly, because the relations between Lithuania and Japan, they are being maintained and expanded slowly but steadily. And of course, everyone can say that those relations are positive with no basically issues. How to represent them? That's another question. Also, the anniversaries that I mentioned previously. In 2022, last year, we celebrated the this year, we are celebrating the established relations, diplomatic relations between Japan and Lithuania. So it's 100 years anniversary, very nice, very round. Last year, we celebrated 30 years of re-established diplomatic relations. So for those two occasions, this two consecutive years, they gave quite a strong argument. Why should we be engaging in such topics precisely now, not later, not sooner? And of course, the solution was to create a publicly accessible multilingual website that you can go and see. It's very simple, RITOJA.LT. Now I will give a floor to Linas so he can explain the choosing of the topics. Oh, good for you.
Okay, I think it works. So indeed, we have 100 years of relationships, and many things happened during that time. So we had a kind of a puzzle, what topics to select, what areas to cover in this website. And actually it has quite a number of them grouped into 4 groups: personalities, political and economic ties, knowledge dissemination, and culture. So the first group is dedicated to some prominent personalities that go even beyond 100 years. Some of them are, well, we can start from the first mentioning of Japan and Lithuania, and the first mentioning of Lithuania in Japan. So that would go back more than 200 years actually into history. And then there are some very prominent people who lived in the, let's say, 19th century and did some first work after Japan opened up, and they established some first contacts, and they were very much interested. And we also have some visits from Japan that also just after Japan is opening up, missions that traveled through Lithuania's territory. Yukichi Fukuzawa is a famous name who visited also Kaunas back in those days. So some of those names are also included, even though they are beyond this 100 years. Majority, of course, of information is from that 100 years period. And well, Lithuania's history is quite complicated, as you know, and Japan also had some ups and downs. And all this has also created some relative gaps in communication between Lithuania and Japan. But there is still some very interesting stories, let's say, even from the Soviet period. which is very different interaction between Japan and Lithuania, different actors, different interests. And of course, there is after Lithuania regained independence, so the past from the end of Cold War, we have really big booming connections with Japan in all kind of areas. So we try to reflect all that in the website, and you could explore all these topics. And they have some prominent cases mentioned in each of those areas.
And what is most important, I think, to mention that those topics which are presented, they are kind of popularly written, well, scientific research, first of all, because me, Linas, Aurelius, and a great part, I think the greatest part, also other researchers, they were conducting the data, well, searching for the data, looking for how to employ it, and putting it into, well, easy to understand scientific texts. This picture, well, it needs, of course, some explanations. It is only a small part of the so-called Neimantas collection. Neimantas is a name of a person who lived in Soviet times. Well, actually, he passed away not that long time ago, in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. He was first of all, a journalist, but he was a very passionate journalist and passionate about the Oriental cultures, Oriental history. So during his time when he was active, what was he doing? Since he had access to the published materials, to all the journals and articles, he used to cut them out from the actual publications and collecting everything what is related to Oriental world, Asia. So here we have 8 drawers which are filled with articles related to Japan. From 1960 something up until 2010, so to say, before he was unable basically physically to collect anymore. I haven't actually calculated how many of those pieces of articles are here, but majority of them are even unable, you could not even find them in National Library of Lithuania. So it's a huge pool of information, raw material, which still is, well, waiting for its time to be researched.
And actually, some of those things that you see in these drawers are actual clippings. So you could just take it out, read it, and see if it's useful. You can categorize them because they are basically alphabetically ordered. So you can take one piece and it's from 50 years ago, another piece is quite recent, and so on. You have to really dig into this. And also some of the items are just cards, and they are like with information that there was some kind of publication, but Neimantas, who was collecting this, just couldn't maybe make a clipping or something else happened. I'm not sure exactly. So you have to then, with this card, if it looks interesting, there's a title, a newspaper name, and a page, and so on. You have to go somewhere to find it. So you have to make a journey then to archives and to see what's there. Maybe it could be quite useful.
Yeah, so he basically was also conducting this by bibliographical kind of collection of what is, I don't know, Tibet, Japan, also Uyghurs, for example. You could even find such topics there. And well, I think Linas knows better about this technical part because he was the most engaged in that, how to create, well, engaging design.
Yeah, so I had this well, big question how to actually make the final product, the final thing that you see when you enter the website. And of course, we had discussions, and we well, try to make these kind of categories that would be easier, I guess, to follow maybe and to access these topics. And I hope that if you open on the phone or on the laptop, it looks quite well readable and accessible. So we took that into consideration as well. I don't want to get, of course, into much more details about this, but it's always a big question how to display it and how to organize it to look attractive, not kind of just plain and maybe boring, I could use this word, but something that catches attention, which kind of illustrations to select also to make things interesting. So there was this previous presentation about these scrapbooks and also the question how to present them online. So so that rang a bell very much. I was thinking during that presentation, okay, we also had this journey, and there's never correct answer in many ways. You can have always options, and you have to stick to one of them, and it has some also positive and negative sides. So that's how we structure it in these kind of categories.
And of course, while we are very enthusiastic and we are doing this research because we like this historical relations as a topic, no matter if it's economic, political, cultural, or people-to-people aspect, we had to get some financial support because this is how it goes, right? So our best words are for Toshiba International Foundation for a generous support for this project, which was resulting in a website. But of course, other works that we did, like looking for the topics during the research previously, it's not, well, let me remember, we published, this website became publicly accessible this year on the end of March. Yes, but definitely we were doing it for much longer time, not like the half of a year, which was officially supported by Toshiba Foundation. So this is, I think, also quite usual for all of us as researchers in the sense, but because not everything that we are doing is supported. But once we get supported, of course, it becomes much easier. And cooperating institutions in this project, it was Center for Asian Studies from Vytautas Magnus University and EAJRS, the organization which is led by Aurelijus Zykas, now temporarily not acting because of, well, maybe some public and personal interest infringement. It's waiting for the it's on pause, on hold, so to say. So RITOJA.LT nevertheless was the initiator, and the scientists, researchers coming from Center for Asian Studies. So this is the main web page, the homepage of the RITOJA.LT. Of course, those tiles are nicely and dynamically changing. If you open it on your laptop, it looks much better than on the phone. Although Linas did the best thing to make it accessible and visually pleasing in all platforms. I could press the result now, so you can access the web page, but you can do it on your free time. Okay? No? Okay, let's continue with the presentation. So this is what would get if once you open, for example, one of the topics. It is full of pictorial information from archives. First of all, we were searching for the archival information, for the photos, for documents which are not published previously, which were not found previously, and were not maybe even known for the general public. Of course, for general public and even some researchers dedicated to the topic, because this is a vast field which still lacks, so to say, interest from the researchers. And other thing was to make it publicly visible, like literally publicly visible. So the part of the exhibition was put on the mobile and movable panels in Kaunas, so you could those who were in Kaunas could see. Now it's waiting for other place to be exhibited. 15 panels with the information which was collected and representing the part of the information about. Here you can see the first Lithuanians in Japan. who were they, how did they came there, all the stories, all the as much as possible it was collected and put it in well, easy to understand narrative, if I can say so. So what's next?
Yes, good question. Indeed, when you create such a website, you can always imagine it could be information could be added and added and added. You keep finding things, you keep discovering. Some people approach you and say, well, you didn't mention this or that, especially in the recent history, of course, when it's such a dynamic field and it's not very clear what's the most important, what will be trivial after 10 years. So we keep looking, we keep our eyes open, and this format, of course, is very useful in that regard. When you have digital resources, you can always add more information without really, it doesn't really cost that much. It doesn't really need that much time. You do not have to republish the second edition or third edition of this piece of information. So we try to think about what to add in the future and to update the current website. And also one more thing that you may find missing and think, well, this is a very, very big gap, is that there are only 2 languages at the moment, English and Lithuanian. And it's about Lithuania-Japan relations. And of course, Japanese language is very, very much needed. But good news, we are working on it. It's almost, it's on the way to be done. And hopefully at the end of this year, we will be able to add Japanese language version as well. And having 3 languages, well, this is actually the main, I would say, challenge when you need to update things, because of course you can update in 1 language and feel confident that's okay. But let's say when you translate material, then you need extra people, other people to help you to proofread and so on. So this would be one of the matters to consider when we keep updating the database. And well, this website was done during the COVID time, so which also created some obstacles for us. We managed, of course, to get into Lithuanian archives, and we used online materials as well, including some digitalized Japanese books and material, let's say from interwar period. But still, many things are missing, and one of the things that we keep in mind that we should visit some Japanese archives, and we have some clues, we have some stories that are very puzzling. We do not have much information about one thing or another. We try to explore as much as possible in Lithuania, but we suspect there should be more information in Japan waiting for us. And so this website allowed us to also to have a better picture in our mind, what stories are very much established and what stories could be further developed. So we would like to expand on those less developed stories in the future.
And also what I would like to add for the last note, it is this flexibility of the platform. And first of all, basically, how many people were working on this project? If you could count.
I would say 4 or 5 people.
So it's not that many, if I can say so. What it gives us the possibility to include more. And yesterday we were listening to the wonderful presentation about the poster, interwar Japanese poster exhibition, which used a good deal of student work. And we, first of all, we are researchers, we are lecturers in the university. That is our primary occupation. And we are thinking how to use this huge, vast potential of our, well, diligent students, not of them very diligent, but whatever. And this is going back to those drawers of the raw material. It's, I'm pretty sure some of those articles, some of those pieces of information, once they were cut from the original material, even torn from the book, yes, there are some pages that are torn from the book and put there into the drawer, they have never been opened after that. So reading, classifying, making it into a digital accessible catalog these are huge works, and using that, we can definitely update, first of all, Japanese-Lithuanian relations, and maybe later going beyond. There are many more relations we could cover, but first of all, Japan-Lithuania. So thank you for listening. I hope it made some sense what we are doing and how we are actually reinterpreting resources on Japanese studies in Lithuania now.
Thank you very much for interesting presentation. So we have now some time for questions and comments.
So thank you very much for your presentation. I just would like to ask what technologies is this website built upon, and if there's some kind of technical documentation or even a source code that you could provide.
So it's a very popular technology called WordPress. So it's WordPress template, and then we add information there. I have some complaints about WordPress actually, because in the long term, it's very difficult to sustain this website as it is. There are updates and add-ons and so on that keep breaking up websites. But we hope that we can really manage it and survive during those updates. So that was the platform that we used.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You kind of alluded to it there already, but I was going to ask you if you had plans to integrate this into any classes that you teach, either just as a resource for the students to learn from or having students contribute to the work. And then I was also wondering, have you been following the website traffic? Is it kind of meeting your expectations, exceeding your expectations in terms of the viewers?
I can answer about the traffic because I keep my eye on it. I'm curious about these kind of things. So of course, the beginning, it was like big peak and we received many visitors, but then it kind of flattened the curve. And at the moment, I think we have around, it's around 50 unique visitors every day. So of course they click on different pages, so that generates more kind of activity. But of course in internet there is always a question: who's a person and who's some kind of automatic bot is traveling around web pages and generating traffic. So so I am not sure about that because it's very difficult to distinguish the two categories. But it's looking from origin countries, because that could be one of the ways to look at that. Lithuania is the leading one, so it seems most visitors coming from Lithuania, and there are probably not that many robots among them. And we also have Japan, also quite high in the list. I think in top 3. I think it's in 3rd position. I think the second one is Germany, or something that is a bit unexpected for us. But it seems that we have quite those our focus countries that are reflected in the traffic. So it seems that it's quite real and people are interested and still visiting. We don't have that curve going down very much. So that's of course very happy that we have that.
Well, bearing in mind that there's not so much efforts done to advertise that, apparently it spreads between people, like maybe sharing the links. Because while it was initially peaking, it was published during this Japan-Lithuania festival, actually Kaunas days, sorry, Japanese days in Kaunas. So it really did have some public attention because it was advertised together with other events like concerts, exhibitions, and so on. But later, it's just, I believe, the enthusiasts who are searching for the information, and apparently this thing works. And about the students, yes, once again, we need to employ them because although our study program is for East Asia as a whole, definitely the Japanese part is one of the most important, and the majority of the students are doing their research on Japan. So we can find those enthusiastic students who could devote their time and search for the information, make it accessible.
But maybe the
Please.
question as well was about using that as a teaching resource at the same time. So of course we have some courses on Japanese history, and of course when that course goes to more modern, like a Meiji period and so on, then it would be a good start to introduce relations with Lithuania. They have certain also background. So we need to encourage our Japanese history teacher to do that more actively. She's not here in this group today. And also I myself, I'm doing this as well because I teach introductory course in East Asian studies for our first year students. So I use this opportunity already this September. It's the first time when I can do that and to advertise this website. So I hope that this will be a place on the internet where students will remember and go and just find some information for themselves. Because of course it's not a textbook, it's not kind of like a teaching material in itself. It's more kind of reference material. So integrating it's very much into teaching would be complicated, but of course always reminding the students that there is such a place. We will try to do it ourselves.
Okay, so time is up. So let's stop here. So thank you very much for interesting presentation. So we will invite the last speaker.